Hello there and welcome to episode 20 of Colonization Project. Right now we are launching a brand new space station core up to orbit Kerbin. This new station is going to be called Starlab, I believe, because in real life you have Skylab, and then we have Space Lab, which was our previous Kerbin space station, and it's being replaced now by Starlab, which is sort of the next generation of our space stations around Kerbin. This one is going to actually have a purpose this time and not just doing absolutely nothing. This one will be an orbital construction dock, and we'll be able to construct a spacecraft in orbit. And that's good, because then we won't have to ship up like bunch of things from the surface of Kerbin. Anyways, we are getting into orbit, and we can't detach the second stage because I forgot to put a probe core on it again. So once again, the only probe core that we actually have is on the engine, so we can't decouple it, but hopefully a new module to the space station will fix that. But that's not happening now. Right now we are recovering the booster. We are sort of undershooting quite a bit for the drone ship. So we don't actually manage to land it on the drone ship. We managed to land it in the ocean. Also, for some reason, we're using all 9 engines. I need to fix the action groups for the amount of engines that it's controlling. Anyways, right now we are launching Enterprise up on a new mission, and this mission will be retrieving Bill and Bob from the Singularity Asteroid. Because if you remember in the last episode, the new asteroid module that we sent up, it doesn't work very well. So we're sending this up to go get them, and then when we get fusion rockets or something, we'll send a new module up to go redirect the asteroid. I was actually wrong in the last episode about how much the contract is paying. It's not paying us 2 million funds. It's only paying us about, I believe, what was it? Like 900,000 funds? So it's not paying us as much as I thought it was, but oh well, money is money, and we've probably blown through that entire budget from how much stuff we've launched up to the asteroid. Nerve engines are very expensive, and ISRU units, and literally this entire mission, the asteroid redirector and the companion module, they're all very expensive, so I'm pretty sure we've blown through more than 900,000 funds trying to do that. But oh well, we don't have anything else to be doing right now. But we will soon. I believe in the time time-space between the beginning of this episode and the end of the next episode, we go from like 3,500,000 funds down to like 700,000. So we're going to be doing some expensive stuff probably in the next episode, and maybe an episode after that. But right now we're not doing too much expensive things. Right now we're just launching a starship, which is sort of expensive, also sort of not, and the cost is cheaper because we can reuse it. But we are now getting our encounter with the asteroid and preparing to pick up the crew. Not sure what else we would be doing in this crazy inclined orbit. I once again don't like inclined orbits. Unless they're polar orbits. Polar orbits are okay. But I don't like this kind of inclined orbit. It makes everything a lot harder to do. But we do get some pretty nice views of Kerbin and the Mun. Like right now, we can see the Mun slowly disappearing behind the horizon, but you normally don't see the Mun's Terminator like tilted like that. It's pretty cool. But we have arrived at the asteroid. We can slow down. The asteroid started spinning again. Thankfully, the crew can still get out. It might be spinning for the entire time that we're gone. It might also stop spinning again. It might worry me more if it stops spinning, because that would mean that it stops spinning by itself, and the spacecraft isn't controlling it. So what does? Anyways, now we have gotten both crew members, Bill and Bob, back into the starship, and we can do a quick little circularization burn to get us into a lower orbit. Once again, doing some pretty costly maneuvers, but we have fuel to burn, and we probably should burn that fuel because otherwise we won't have enough thrust to land. Speaking of fuel on the starship, the starship is actually optimized for a 2.5 scaled system, so it can probably carry like 100 tons of cargo into low carbon orbit. In a 2.5 scaled system. This is not a 2.5 scaled system. This is normal scale. So Starship is kind of overpowered. So sooner or later, I might end up decreasing the fuel values for Starship, just so it's less overpowered and more of a just normal launch vehicle. Because right now it's slightly overpowered how much fuel it has, but we will be using that to our advantage later on in this episode. But hopefully not future episodes, because I might end up nerfing the Starship, because right now, yeah, it is quite overpowered. Anyways, we are returning to the launch site. We are landing in the darkness, so not fully ideal, but it's just the way the orbit's lined up, I guess. But yeah, returning back to the Space Center, like always. We haven't landed a Starship anywhere else, thankfully, because we only really have three places to land it. We can land it at the Kerbal Space Center, we can land it at the drone ship, or we can land it in the ocean. The ocean probably isn't the best of ideas, and we can't land it anywhere else on land because then it's just going to tip over, and that won't be good. Because if it tips over, it might explode, and yeah, it's pretty bad. But anyway, thankfully, we can land on this nice flat landing pad and area around the Kerbal Space Center. So thankfully, we can touch down softly, as you may be able to see momentarily. Not much to talk about here. We've done this many times before. Not sure how many times to be exact, but we've done this quite a few times. Another thing to note about this mission is that I tried to decrease the reaction wheel torque, and this ended up happening. But thankfully I managed to revert it back to its normal state, and we managed to softly land on the launch pad. Actually, this isn't the launch pad. That's the launch pad right there. That was the landing pad. But now we're launching yet another Starship, and this one will be carrying a orbital construction dock to the Minmus Orbital Outpost. It's also going to be carrying a workshop module and some specialized parts. A workshop module lets us actually construct things in orbit, and as well as a launch pad, of course. Or it's not a launch pad if it's in space, because you're not launching anything from it, you're releasing things from it. The orbital construction dock needs a workshop in order to function. So we're carrying that, and we're also carrying some specialized parts. Because right now we have a whole bunch of material kits, but we don't have any specialized parts on the space station. So this will just... It's sort of a temporary solution for the specialized parts storage. You can produce material kits and specialized parts on site, but we do not have that technology right now. material kits and specialized parts are two resources, and you use them to create things that are not launched from Kerbin. You need both in order to build things, and they're both rather expensive and heavy. I believe one unit of material kits is 1 kilogram of material, so they get pretty heavy and they're quite expensive, so they end up depleting your space program's budget at a rapid rate. Thankfully, we have a large budget as of now, and we can afford to launch just a couple thousand specialized parts up to the Minmus Orbital Outpost, so we can start building things in orbit. I did have a small little ion-powered probe that I was going to build. However, I forgot that we don't have any xenon on the space station. And material kits and specialized parts, you use them to build the rocket. You use them to build the whole of the rocket. You don't use them to build anything else. You actually need to fill it up with fuel in order to actually manage to build things. Otherwise, you'll just be building things without fuel. So I did have that planned. I might edit it a bit so it's using chemical rocket engines instead. But right now we are getting into orbit of Minmus. The auto warp feature it sent us flying past the maneuver node, which isn't completely ideal, but we did manage to get ourselves back on course and give ourselves an intersection with the space station in about 3 days, which is a bit longer than it should have taken, but we don't really have anything else to be doing. The crew of the Minmus Orbital Outpost have more than enough life support, and they also they're just producing more science. Also, we have an Eve transfer window coming up, so the more time we can spend doing other things, probably the better. So I don't so we can actually go to Eve faster. We will actually be going to Eve first with a crewed mission. However, what I plan to do is I don't plan to land Kerbals on Eve or Gilly first. Definitely not Eve first. We're probably not going to land Kerbals on Eve in the transfer window. I want the first footsteps on another planet to be taken on Duna. So what they're probably going to do is they're probably just the crew of the Eve spacecraft. They're probably just going to stay in orbit, and once the Duna spacecraft lands, then they can go down to the surface, because Gilly is a very small planet. We want the first steps taken on another planet to be actual steps and not being yeeted into an escape velocity around Gilly. That wouldn't be as cinematic, so to say. I'm not sure how to put it. Anyways, we have arrived at the Minmus Orbital Outpost, and we can undock the module from the starship. I believe this is actually the first time that a cargo starship has ever visited the orbital outpost. Maybe we'll send more up in the future. It's a pretty good vehicle. It can carry a lot of cargo. But you can see we are using perhaps one of the most powerful RCS thrusters that I actually have access to. These are the 4-way vernier thrusters, and they are extremely powerful. They're meant for maneuvering really large boosters or fuel tanks, but the specialized parts on this are so heavy that I just decided why not just use it? It's better to have more control authority than to not have enough. But anyways, after rotating the space station a few times, we can get our main engineer, I believe, or no, this is Mitweg Kerman. We can get one of our Kerbals out on EVA and disassemble all the redundant parts, because it's adding to our fine collection of material kits, and Not specialized parts, because you don't get specialized parts from disassembling things. But oh well, more material kits is a nice bonus, so you might as well use it. We also don't want to be using up any more fuel. We don't want to be disassembling fuel, so we just transfer a bit of fuel from the tanks on the module to the lander, because the lander it can always use more fuel. Everything else uses just liquid fuel or nervous. The lander is actually the only thing that actually uses chemical engines on the space station. We're just not going to talk about the life support module that we sent up a while ago. That uses chemical engines, but they haven't been active for like ever. Like, I mean, they were active ones, but they're kind of useless if we don't actually use it. I might use it as like a deorbit motor, but the useful things on the space station. Anyways, we have we can now return to the starship, but we have another task to do around Minmus. We have a contract to yoink a module out of orbit of Minmus and return it back to Kerbin. That's about all it is. I tried to do this with the shuttle, which is why there's a claw in the shuttle. However, the module is like 5 meters in diameter, so that was impossible. This starship has a much larger cargo bay, so we should be able to do it, and we are able to do it. Now you may notice that both modules are spinning. Actually, the module is spinning. We're spinning to match rotation with it. I was trying to do this so we had like a nice symmetrical dock with the module, but then I decided this is way too difficult, so we just put it into the cargo bay like we would with a normal module, and then just use the free pivot on the claw to position it better. After doing that, we can head home. We can head back to Kerbin, and I was having problems recovering the boosters. You see, I don't actually recover the boosters like you would in normal KSP. In normal KSP, you just hover over the altimeter and then press the neat little recover button. I don't want to do that because I'm playing with Kerbal construction time, and because of that, we can actually reuse the same booster and not have it take up extra time. However, you have to actually go into the launch mode in order to actually recover it. And if you do it enough times with FMRS, I'm not sure what happens, but it would eventually just get stuck on an infinite loading screen when you try to recover it. You have to delete a file in the FMRS save thing or whatever. And I was having problems with that. And I didn't want the starship to be falling from midair and the game to crash. I didn't want that. So I decided, hey, we have this neat little drone ship, and we haven't landed a starship on it yet. So we're going to land a starship on the drone ship. Kind of unrealistic because the real-life starship won't land on a drone ship as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it might land on those fancy oil rigs or something, but it won't land on a drone ship, at least as far as we know. But oh well, this is Kerbal Space program after all. We can do things our own way in Kerbal Space Program and make things as unrealistic as possible. Like, I'm not sure. Actually, I wonder what the most unrealistic thing I've ever done in this series would be. Probably carrying like 150 tons to Minmus without refueling, or not the save, but I have created a rocket that could go to Minmus and back 3 times in one launch. That was probably the most unrealistic thing I've ever done in Kerbal Space Program. Or maybe it was those. I once made these huge rockets that could carry like 2 tons to Joule because I didn't actually know how to actually go to Joule. That might have been the most unrealistic thing, but I still think as the Minmus mission 3 times and back, that was pretty unrealistic. But now we are landing on the drone ship, reigniting 2 engines, performing a very nice flip, igniting 3 because we were coming down a bit too fast, and we land almost perfectly. That was probably the most perfect Starship landing that I've probably ever done. Probably even better than those, what are they called? The perfectly timed Starship landings that I uploaded a year ago. For some reason, they're like my 3rd and 4th most popular video. I have no idea why, but it's strange, I guess. Speaking of videos, this episode is actually coming out quite late. I was planning to record it this weekend, but I didn't have time, so I tried to record it on the weekdays, which is what I'm doing now. But yesterday, when I tried to record it, I recorded the entire episode almost perfectly, and then I realized my microphone wasn't plugged in. It used the built-in microphone instead of my actual useful microphone, so the audio quality was absolutely terrible. So I decided I'm just gonna re-record it. So here we are. Anyways. Now we are launching a couple modules up to a unknown base. By unknown, I mean I forgot to record the actual launch of the base. But a quick rundown of the base. It's called it's a Minmus base. We are trying to colonize Minmus, and we launched it on Sarnus, and it's on Minmus right now, and it needs some expansion. We can't become self-sufficient if we don't have a couple modules. The modules on board are a launch pad, so we can launch things. A logistics module, so we can do logistics things. I will explain more on that later, hopefully, if I don't forget. And a quick little life support module. It's not meant to be permanent. It's very temporary. And it can only support a couple crew for not very long. That's about it. We're launching it on a Leviathan booster. We recovered the first stage just there, and now we can recover the second stage. We do have electricity, we do have engines, and we do have common sense. Because in the last time we tried to recover a booster, we ended up crashing into the ocean because I accidentally disabled an engine. But now we can actually land it. 2 of the engines did blow off, but thankfully the 3 engines that we were using actually managed to survive. So we can land in the ocean with not very much fuel to spare. And I'm going to say that was a successful, fully successful recovery of a Leviathan booster. Not fully successful though, because we did lose 2 engines, but we kept 3 of them, so that's pretty good. Anyways, we are heading out to Minmus now, and I should probably mention the name of the base. The base is called Apollo, and I called it Apollo for a couple of reasons. First off, NASA's moon mission is called Apollo. Actually, wait a minute. No, I'm right. NASA's mission to the moon is called Apollo, but NASA's mission to the moon right now is called Artemis. And the first moon base might just be called Artemis Base. Also, you have the book Artemis, and the setting of the book is a moon base called Artemis. It's a really good book, along with all of the other books by Andy Weir. Project Hail Mary and The Martian were also really good. Anyways, I should probably stop talking about books. And I looked at those two, and I was like, what's the opposite of Artemis? And then I was like, Apollo, because the Artemis and Apollo missions, they're sort of two different missions to the moon. So we also, you know, what they're actually named after, I forget if they're Greek or Roman gods. I'm not good at mythology. But anyways, those are sort of the two opposites of each other, but they're also kind of similar. So that's why I called it Apollo Base. And yeah, that's about it. I lost my train of thought there. We actually didn't have a lot of fuel in the life support module, which we just landed. And yeah, we didn't have a lot of fuel, but we still managed to land. But this thing, the Pioneer and Logistics module, actually has a lot of fuel, and I should probably talk about what the logistics module actually does. So we can have these logistics modules on everything, and we can have a bunch of mining rigs across the surface of Minmus, and they can all be putting their resources into a planetary stockpile. And to access that planetary stockpile, we need a logistics module on the base. We also need one in the mining modules themselves. But this allows us to access all the resources that are trapped within Minmus's crust, and yeah, perform maximum efficiency of resource extraction. And also keeping the frame rates down, because we don't want to be having like a million different mining modules just in the proximity of the base. Also, I don't believe the area around the base is actually rich in resources. So yeah, we need a logistics module in order to actually have a functioning base that can mine ore. But now we are landing the launch pad, which will allow us to launch things from the surface of Minmus, which will be very beneficial. And after we land, that's pretty much the rest of the episode. You can see we are trying to maneuver it, and we will maneuver it further in the next episode, which we'll be sending crew down to. But that'll be in the next episode. Then that'll be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.